why are we here in Frankfurt?
Okay.
Frankfurt Fairground.
As I said today in the morning, first to make friends, like you.
Ulegel se je takole zraven avtomobila, vzel v roke fotoaparat, potem pa šel pod avtomobil in pa klik, 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 klik in poslikal vse, kar se je pod avtomobilom dalo pofotografirati. To ni bil osamljen primer. Ko sem začel hoditi po avtomobilskih salonih pred dobrimi 25 leti, je bilo takšnih primerov zelo veliko. Kitajci so namreč v tistem času začeli po evropskih avtomobilskih salonih hoditi, nabirati znanje, kopirati. In potem so s temi kopijami doma tako dobro zaslužili, da so potem prešli v fazo 2. S tem nabranim denarjem so si znanje kar kupili v Evropi. Tako da danes se je zgodba obrnila. Danes evropske znamke začenjajo kopirati kitajske. Udeležil sem se torej sejma za avtomehanika v Frankfurtu in na tem sejmu je kitajska gospodarska zbornica najela eno celo halo, da bi se na njej predstavile vse kitajske avtomobilske znamke, ki imajo kaj interesa v Evropi. Roko na srce, v tej hali je manjkalo kar nekaj kitajskih znamk, sploh tiste v državni lasti, pa tudi kar nekaj znamk je prišlo zgolj parkirati svoje avtomobile tja. Ampak to, da so se prišli eni samo pokazati, je dobro izkoristila družba Geelyje, ki je potem sem prišla s celotnim svojim menedžmentom in pa številnimi inženirji. In prvo misel, ki so me naučili kitajski inženirji, je to, da električni avtomobil ni nujno, da ima samo elektromotorje. Nič ne narobe, če ima tudi kakšen bencinski motor.
We call it dedicated hybrid transmission. We have 2 e-motors, and in between, it's actually a 3-gear transmission with the 2 planetary gear sets. That's why we are able to provide the series hybrid mode, the parallel hybrid mode, the EV mode. Why it's like that? Because most cases, the engine will always rotate together with the P1 e-motor. And in this case, the e-motor will work like a generator. And the electricity goes back to the battery. And then still, the P2 e-motor gets energy from the battery. In this case, it works like a series. The P2 e-motor is driving the car, delivers the torque to the wheel. But the electricity was created by the P1 motor. And also, it's possible to in parallel mode because both e-motor and together with this engine, they are able to deliver torque to the wheel together. That's the parallel mode. And in case needed, even the P1 motor also can deliver torque. That means the P1, P2 together with the engine deliver torque to the wheel together. That's, we call it all power mode. The battery capacity, it's 17.72. With this battery, roughly you can drive around 100 kilometers. In other applications, we have battery 41 kilowatt hour. In that case, we are able to drive 245 kilometers.
Takšno hibridno tehniko bo s časom dobila tudi znamka Renault. In ja, prav ste slišali, evropska znamka bo vozila kitajsko znanje. No, ampak zdaj, ko govorimo o znamki Renault, je prav, da se dotaknemo tudi teh političnih razprtij, ki se zdaj dogajajo okrog kitajskih avtomobilov.
You mean the tariff, right?
Yes.
The situation is really a challenge. We don't think this is the right way to have the tariff increase by 20%. Because by putting the best technology from different parts of the world together can benefit the end user anywhere. And the user should have the right to make a choice. Then how we can manage the situation? We are looking the possibility of working with a local partner. We cannot exclude the option of building a plant here, but that's not in the short run. It takes time. Fortunately, we have a lot of partners here in Europe. So we are studying the possibility of making use of their existing capacity, maybe to share their capacity and supply chain system to assemble a car here. That's, I think, a more preferred option. Say we are studying the possibility of working with, like, say, Volvo and Renault for Europe. For the Mercedes plan, we are not looking at Europe. I have to be clear. We are, talking with Mercedes whether we can make use of their capacity in other part of the world. Yeah, not here in Europe.
Napodolenci, ne veselite se prehitro, no te odločitve so zares še v povojih.
Slovenia.
That's a Volvo factory,
Yes.
right?
Slovakia, sorry.
No.
Slovakia.
Slovakia,
Slovakia and Slovenia.
not Slovenia.
Slovakia.
Slovakia?
Slovenia.
Slovenia, no, not
names
for
are
the
very
moment, not for the moment.
In ko Evropa Kitajski očita, da ukinjajo delovna mesta, no, kitajske znamke odgovarjajo takole.
And the best technologies are today, in today's automotive industry, available if you work together with the right partners. In Europe, for example, we have great partners, for example, from Germany, ZF, Schaeffler and Bosch. What is happening to these partners if the EU tariffs are going this way? I think the EU Commission should really think about that we are, as a team, working together with these partners and creating jobs in Europe as well. By the way, based here near Frankfurt, we are developing our cars with a technical development center in Raunheim. We are developing cars in the markets where we want to sell. So there is kind of like a responsibility between the politicians and the market. And I think this dialogue should be drawn in this way, because we do not want to have too many parts of the industry suffering by spontaneous decisions. They are not probably wisely thought through.
No, pa gremo nazaj na tehniko. No, naslednja tehnična novotarija, ki se jo lahko Evropejci naučimo od Kitajcev, je ultrahitra električna polnilnica s čisto tankim kablom.
Our structure is separated the power cabinet with the charging terminal, as you can see here. So this is the charging terminal, and you can consider it as a connector. The power module is inside the power cabinet, so that can guarantee our one charging terminal can get enough power from the charging cabinet, and it won't take much space in the power in the parking bay. As you can see, the terminal is a little bit smaller compared with the traditional one.
How did you get the cable so thin?
Because we use a liquid cooling method, so the liquid circulation to take the heat away, and that can guarantee we adopt a thinner copper cable inside. That can take higher current, because if you solve the heat accumulation problem, you can guarantee higher current capacity. That's why the cable is thinner compared with the traditional one.
Litij železofosfatne baterije pa so vsaj za ta hip, kot kaže, postale standard.
The thermal temperature is quite lower than NCM, so it is better control on the safety. There are a lot of things we are doing for the safety. First, you can see here there is a lot of air pad between every two cells. When the thermal railway, this can stop from the third cell and only keep the thermal railway in two cells. And another way is that in here is actually some material between the lid and the cell. And also there are a lot of safety material attached on the bottom of the plate and also attached on the tray. And by the way, when talking about the safety, when the thermal railway happened, this cooling will be also inertial started to reduce down the temperature of the cell. This will also be helpful on the thermal railway.
Litij železofosfatna baterija je tudi bolj odporna, lahko jo do konca napolnimo in do konca izpraznimo. Je tudi ne poškodujemo, če jo redno hitro polnimo, naprimer od 10 do 80% v komaj 11 minutah.
All the cells, the battery and also BMS are in-house design. It's from Geelyje, from Geelyje.
Rekel je, da prihaja iz znamke Zeekr. Gre za pred komaj 3 leti ustanovljeno popolnoma električno znamko v popolni lasti Geelyja. Ves razvoj, dizajn in proizvodnja pa se odvija v Göteborgu na Švedskem, seveda pri Volvu. In ja, te baterije bodo tudi v novih Volvovih modelih, seveda tudi v Geelyjih, pa v znamki Lynk & Co in Lotusih, pa spet so omenili znamko Renault. Also for the Renault cars?
Yeah. There is a planning that with Renault cars, yes.
No, vse to je srednjeročna prihodnost. Kaj pa nam prinašajo prihodnji meseci?
Naša strategija lansiranja brenda je krenula sa motorima sa unutarnjim sagorijevanjem, sa ICE motorima, sa modelom Atlas Pro i Cool Rem, i to je bila izrazito dobra prilika da krenemo raditi setup mreže. Naša današnja prodajna servisna mreža sa postojećim i novim partnerima broji 20 lokacija u Sloveniji, u usporedbi sa ostalima to je jako dobra pokrivenost. Sada je došlo vrijeme da najavimo i ambicioznu 2025. godinu na koji će prvi puta se predstaviti prvo naše električno vozilo E5 C plus SUV. Godina 2025. će zasigurno biti godina kada ćemo lansirati naš prvi C SUV plug-in, plus imamo plan da u drugoj polovici nasljednje godine lansiramo D SUV u full hibridni tehnologiji.
Da je Kitajska res avtomobilska velesila, no to je danes že povsem jasno in očitno. O tem se je prepričal tudi moj sodelavec Luka Gregorič in to na kitajskih tleh. Obiskal je kitajski avtomobilski salon in pa eno veliko kitajsko tovarno. In če njegove zgodbe še niste pogledali, vas zdaj res vabim, da si jo ogledate, zato ker izredno lepo dopolnjuje to današnjo zgodbo. Pa če se še niste naročili na naš kanal, vas zdaj res vabim, da se naročite, zato da boste res prvi obveščeni, kdaj mi objavimo novo zgodbo, in naj vam namignem, da imamo nadaljevanje te današnje zgodbe že v montaži. Objavili bomo v prihodnjih dneh.